Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Sachs, Director of the Earth Institute. This is the World Leaders Forum, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have President John Mahama of the Republic of Ghana with us, and a very esteemed delegation of the permanent representative of Ghana to the United Nations, the ambassador of Ghana to the United States, many distinguished members of the cabinet, many distinguished members of the president's office. It's a joy to have you here, Mr. President. And you know you have many, many friends in this place today. The room is packed and overflowing and could have accommodated so many more who wanted to join. There are 29 Ghanaian students at Columbia University. We're very proud. If some of them are here, could you raise your hand? Yeah! Look at that. How good is that? Put them up one more time. I want to see. Whoa! And I know that our students know how proud we are, Mr. President, to be working with Ghana in many, many ways. We were just discussing upstairs very briefly our ongoing work together in Bonsaso Millennium Village, just outside of Kumasi, and then in the north, in the Sada region, a new Millennium Village which President Mahama led us to and was the inspiration for getting started with the quite wonderful support of DFID, a major telemedicine program that is very exciting and that puts Ghana in the lead of the new IT applications in medicine, important projects in Accra, that are underway, and I also have to say I'm very proud to have also been a teacher of your wonderful finance minister, who's with us, and he was a great student, and we're so proud of him, and he is exemplary of Ghana's great dynamism right now. This is Mr. President, you have been displaying great leadership for a long time as Member of Parliament, a member of the Cabinet in many capacities, as Vice President of the Republic, and then becoming President when President Mills sadly passed away, and then winning election in your own right in late last year, and we're very, very excited to see the progress that Ghana is making with your leadership. The country's growing rapidly. It's discovering many new resources, which are always a challenge, we know, double-edged. Managing them right leads to great growth and great potential. Ghana has been one of the fastest growing countries in the world in recent years. And we're very eager to hear your thoughts about Ghana's challenges and future. You'll be speaking today on the topic Reflections on the Challenges and Prospects of Democratic Consolidation in Africa. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, for those kind words, and thanks for being a friend of Ghana. Indeed, it's a pleasure and an honor to have been invited to Columbia University to take part in the World Leaders Forum and to address this audience full of talented young people, many of whom I'm sure are already on their way to becoming future world leaders. It had been my intention to speak to you today about democracy in Africa. I had wanted to speak about how in recent times more and more countries on the African continent have turned to democracy and the rule of law, about the pivotal role that democracy can play in a developing nation, especially where safety and social welfare of all its citizens are concerned. Then just as I was preparing to leave Ghana, I received word of the terrorist attack that took place in Nairobi, Kenya, where a group of armed men laid siege to the Westgate Premier shopping mall and massacred dozens of people. It has been confirmed in later reports that one of those individuals killed in the attack was Ghanaian poet and statesman Professor Kofi Awoonor. During my journey from Ghana to the United States, my thoughts have been centered on Professor Awoonor, his impactful life and legacy of literature he has left for us and for future generations. Coincidentally, the date of Professor Awoonor's death, September 21st, is also the date that the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's founding father, was born. What links these two men, besides this fateful date, is the fact that they were both men of consciousness and conscience. They were men of tremendous vision. Far too often, democracy in Africa is defined simply by the absence of dictatorship rather than by the presence of the vision that fuels it and the willingness of individuals to take a stand in defense of that vision regardless of the consequences. In 1957, when Ghana became the first sub-Saharan nation in Africa to gain its independence, it spearheaded a revolution on the continent. Country after country followed, each one claiming its liberation from colonial rule. It was a revolution that was led by the people, by visionaries, men and women who believed that the future they saw for their country was possible. It was a goal worth fighting for. It was a destination worth marching towards, a dream for which they would sooner die than have deferred. It was a revolution that was led by poets and professors, by singers and lawyers and day laborers, the wealthy as well as the working class, anyone who dared to give voice to that vision. They were the politicians of that era, the leaders who were destined to shape a new world, and the price many of them paid was steep. Nelson Mandela was jailed, as was Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Wole Soyinka, and Fela Anikulapo Kuti. There were many who lost days, months, and even years of their lives in prison. There were also many who paid the ultimate price and who lost their lives entirely. Christopher Okigbo was killed, as was Patrice Lumumba, Stephen Biko, Sylvanus Olympio, and Eduardo Motlanthe. Untold numbers of others fled into exile. Far too often, the collective battle for independence in Africa is mistaken for the struggle for freedom. But the independence of a nation does not guarantee the freedom of its people. And this was a significant hurdle that Africa needed to overcome as its many countries moved into self-rule. This belief that the revolution was over, that with independence we had arrived at our final destination, we had met the ultimate goal. The dream had been fully manifested into reality. Now we know better. Decades of poverty, war, despots, and brain drain have taught us better. Decades during which Africa seemed to have lost its way and lost sight of that vision. Decades which were just lost. As I said, it had been my intention to discuss democracy in Africa. But on the heels of what has been taking place in Mali, in Somalia, and in Egypt, and on the heels of what has just taken place in Kenya, it is important to first ask, why is it that this system is seen by some as a threat? I believe the answer exists in the vision. When I speak of the vision, I speak of social justice. I speak of equality. I speak of religious and ethnic tolerance. I speak of access to education, to healthcare, to housing, and to sanitary conditions. I speak of respect for the dignity of the human spirit. These are the ideals that come together to form the vision. And that vision is what fuels democracy. Far too often, when Africa's resources are listed, the most important one is omitted. Africa's greatest resource is its people. And we cannot continue to overlook this basic truth. As more and more countries on the continent strengthen their democracies through the rule of law, something both Ghana and Kenya recently did with the Supreme Court challenges to the results of our respective elections, the closer we get to the vision and to the existence of that world in which so many have dared to believe in. If past is truly prologue, then it is safe to say that the lull in the revolution is over now. There's been a resurgence of African literature and music. The poets are writing of protest, and the songs being sung are of extinguishing the fire on the mountain. There's a renewed sense of hope for Africa. A number of the fastest growing economies in the world are on the continent. Countries that have been ravished by war, famine, genocide, apartheid, or extreme poverty are now experiencing a reversal of fortune. The debt trap and triple-digit inflation associated with Africa of the early 80s and 90s have disappeared. And indeed, many countries such as Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Namibia have attained single-digit inflation, with prospects for further decline in those rates. In recent reports, the World Bank has noted that economic growth in Africa for the first decade of the 21st century has averaged 4.7%, as against the 2.5% for the global economy in 2012. A few years ago, Ghana, my own country, was among one of the most economically challenged on the continent. In the last couple of years, Ghana has posted some of the highest GDP growth rates in the world and still remains one of the world's 15 fastest growing economies. At the present rate, it is expected that Africa's cumulative GDP would rise from 1.5 trillion US dollars to 3 trillion US dollars by 2020. This means the potential for job creation, housing, quality education, improved healthcare, modern transportation networks, and the opportunity for quality livelihoods is limitless. Today, Africa is home to 3 of the world's overall best-performing stock exchanges, and Ghana's stock exchange received the highest rating from DataBank Financial Services as the best-performing stock market in terms of return on investment. Africa has taken advantage of the benefits of information technology to leapfrog its developmental processes. Today, subscription and usage of mobile phones in Africa has surpassed subscription in Europe and America combined. And the industry employs over 5 million people. Mobile phones in Africa today are more than just a device for making and receiving calls. They are instruments that facilitate access to agricultural support services, microfinance, banking services, and healthcare, amongst others. The world we live in today, with its mobile phones, laptops, and social media, is dramatically different from the world that existed in the late 50s and 60s. But the principles for which we fight remain the same. What also remains the same is the hatred, the greed, oppression, and the presence of individuals and groups who feel that their way is the only way. For these individuals and groups, the prospects of peace and democracy undermines their plans for dictatorship. Empowered people are difficult to oppress. Educated people are aware of their rights. People whose only hunger is for the ability to rise to their highest potential will take a stand for justice and freedom. But freedom is not given freely. Indeed, it is not given at all. It must be won. It must be claimed. And the price of the ticket is steep. As a leader, it is my firm belief that not only do people in a nation, in a world matter, indeed they matter the most. The policies that our governments promote must be for the betterment of our people. The legislation that we enact must be for their protection. The democracies that we build must shelter the freedom for which we are fighting. And I know that despite the setbacks, despite the senseless violence, this is a struggle that will result in victory. And so we must hang on. In a speech delivered at midnight, just minutes after Ghana won her independence, our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, quite prophetically said that the liberation of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. 9 years later, Dr. Nkrumah's government was overthrown in a coup d'etat. The years following the coup were turbulent ones for Ghana. The government and regime changes were numerous. During those turbulent years, Professor Kofi Awono, like so many artisans of his day, became a political activist. He would go on to serve his country as ambassador to Brazil and to Cuba, as an envoy to the United Nations, and as a chairman of the Council of State. But before any of that, in 1976, he was sentenced to serve a 10-year 10 months in prison after being wrongfully accused and convicted of allegedly plotting a coup. While Professor Awuno was serving time in Ashford Prison in Accra, he wrote the following lines. At times, the vision of victory becomes so blurred and dim. So much is a haze, uncertainty. But somehow in this frame flickers a little light, which keeps on the search, a veritable instrument around which hope settles, quietly, staring now, slumbering now, but hanging on, just hanging on. Thank you for your time.
Mr. President, thank you for those very, very powerful and moving words. And you remind us of our own responsibilities, absolutely. And I know I convey the sentiments of everybody here to express our deep sorrow at Ghana's loss of Professor Awuno. A great man. I was not even aware of it until you said it, unfortunately. That's why I didn't refer to it earlier. I'm just shocked to hear this, as we all are. We had one of our team escape from the roof of Westgate yesterday and is traumatized, of course, now in this horrible and ongoing terrible crisis. The President's challenged us about fighting for democracy and liberty and values, and reminded us of many great men and women who have done so. We have students here who are joining that challenge, and I want to challenge them to get up to the microphone now. Before I have to call you. And please, when you do get up to the microphone, just line up and state your name. This is a wonderful chance that you'll remember for a long time to ask a great leader a question. Please.
Thank you.
And speak loud.
Mr. President Maraba, we are so happy to have you here at Columbia University. My name is Jessica Ames. I'm from Texas, and I'm a Master's of Development Practice student here at Columbia University. And last summer, I worked in Ghana with the UN REACH initiative to discuss how to scale up nutrition in Ghana. And so my question for you today is first to congratulate Ghana on its achievement of the first Millennium Development Goal in undernutrition. Ghana is really making positive steps, but we know too that there's a lot more to be done. And I wanted to know your comments on the vision for scaling up nutrition to the most remote and vulnerable populations, especially in the forgotten about corners of the country. So thank you.
Oh, should I take it one?
Yeah, maybe one at a time, I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I'll be very brief. Yeah, thank you. Ghana has made, quite a lot of progress with reducing hunger, and just early this year we received a prize among 15 countries for having achieved the Millennium Goal of reducing hunger and reducing malnutrition in our country. And we continue to make efforts to even go beyond the Millennium Development Goals. One of our flagship programs for children is the school feeding program, where we give the children in our country one nutritious meal a day in public schools. And this program is extended to the poorest communities. We did a rescaling to make sure that it went to the schools that really needed them, where the issue of malnutrition was a problem. And so because of that program, we are having more children coming to school because they are guaranteed one meal a day. And two, we make sure that those meals are nutritious, to ensure that the children are getting the vitamins that they need. We're moving one step up to see if we can provide additional snacks that are fortified with vitamins to prevent stunting and all the associated problems with malnutrition, to ensure that children are being able to realize their full potential while they're growing.
Wonderful. Please. That's you.
Okay. All right. Hello, President Mahama. Welcome. I'm Cassandra Mensah Brampa. I'm actually from Ghana, and I'm a second-year student at the School of International and Public Affairs. I'm actually the president of our school's Pan-African network. And as a Ghanaian, I wanted my friends in Ghana who couldn't be here to have a chance to ask you a question. So I put a status on Facebook and said, I get the chance to be here. Can you just sort of throw questions at me? And I got a wide array of questions.
Okay.
And so I think I'll try and sum it up into one. So obviously there's JIDA, which is quite a big issue in Ghana right now. We have the National Health Insurance Scheme. We have issues with illegal mining. So obviously Ghana's doing really well, but there's still a lot of issues internally. Of all the different issues mentioned and not mentioned, what would you say is your government's biggest priority right now?
Yeah, okay. You mentioned several things. I don't know where to start, but certainly I'll just make a slight mention of JIDA. JIDA was an issue. It's a very important governmental program to provide young people coming out of schools to prepare them for the world of work. Unfortunately, the management was not carried out properly, and so there have been problems of corruption and misappropriation in the program. We conducted an investigation, and we're taking the steps to correct what went wrong. NHIS is doing well. We need to focus on sustainability. Every year we have an appraisal program to look at how sustainable the NHIS is, and based on that program, we make adjustments to it. And so I'm sure that with government as the strongest guarantor of the NHIS program, we will make progress. We're tackling the issue of illegal mining, and we had a lot of foreigners engaged in illegal mining. I don't want to mention one nationality, but we deported we deported thousands of people from our country because they were engaged in illegal mining. And so we're in the process of restructuring the Minerals Commission and creating the systems that will ensure that we don't destroy the environment as a result of small-scale mining. It's actually supposed to be small-scale mining. It's supposed to be regulated. It's supposed to be supervised. But unfortunately, it's taking a turn that is detrimental to the environment. But what is the one priority? In a developing country, you can't talk of one priority. Everything matters. Health matters. Education matters. Infrastructure matters. Ghana is a country climbing from lower middle income to middle income. And there's a huge need for everything. We need roads, we need rail, we need port expansion, we need urban sanitation. And so if you ask me to talk about one priority, it's going to be very difficult. If you had said a number of priorities, then I could have talked of various sectors. But certainly, I believe that education is a priority. We need to ensure that every child of school-going age is in school. We've managed to meet the MDGs. We've achieved gender parity. As many girls are going to school as boys are. We need to make sure that they remain in school, and we need to ensure that when they come out of school, they probably get jobs. And so if you ask me, the absolute priority, maybe it will be job creation.
Wonderful. And perfect answer for our students in engineering, architecture, urban planning. It's teaching, public health. It's all important. Every one of your fields, and an important contribution to be made. We're also very happy to hear about cleaning up the illegal mining, because we felt a lot of it outside of Kumasi, and they were ripping up land and threatening farmers. It was really very, very difficult, difficult period. Please.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Amwaku. I'm from North Carolina, but my family is from Ghana. I've visited several times. I have kind of a two-part question. I'm a law student and a CEPA student, just to say my affiliation. One.
A lawyer will ask 2 clauses, but just one question.
Okay. Well, one of my questions has to deal with the role of the diaspora in today's Ghana. How can we encourage that? The other part is still the same question, but the other part of that was that I do know people who, Ghanaians abroad, who want to invest in Ghana, but there are things that hinder them doing so. So you spoke about misappropriation before. I know personally people who have tried to start businesses and have been, things have been stolen from them. So how can we address these things, not only at a government level, but on every level to make sure that, business can really thrive in Ghana?
Let me take the issue about the diaspora and say that we're beginning to experience a reverse brain drain, and many Ghanaians who had lived outside before are coming back home and either investing or bringing whatever expertise they acquired while abroad to come and work back in Ghana. And so we're seeing a lot of Ghanaian families, relocating in Ghana and working meaningfully, either in the public sector or in the private sector. There's been also a reduction on the number of Ghanaians who are seeking to go abroad to look for jobs because partly of the growing economy. Ghana's economy has been one of the fastest growing, and in 2011, it grew at 14%. And so many opportunities are coming up that people in the diaspora can take up. But to formalize things, we have just recently taken a decision to set up a diaspora desk in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which through our embassies would give help to Ghanaians in the diaspora who are looking to either come back home or not come back home permanently, but to see how they can use their skills to assist the process that is going on back home. We are fixing the system and putting in the governance structures that will create an environment that makes it conducive for people to come back home and work. And it does take some work. Public sector reform is not the easiest of things to do, but we're putting in the systems that ensure that the public service is more responsive, to people, that we're fighting against corruption. The fight against corruption is a universal one, and we're doing our bit to ensure that there's less corruption in the system. We're trying to let the public service understand that they exist, to give service to the people of the country, and that they don't exist to lord it over them. And so that change in orientation will come, but it will take some time, and we're pushing it as hard as we can. In the presidency, just this morning, I was discussing with Prime Minister Tony Blair. We had a session to talk about putting a delivery unit in the presidency that works to ensure that policies are not just rolled out, but that they get implemented. And so I believe that that change would make Ghana a more pleasant and conducive environment for our diaspora to want to return home and work.
And when you do that, can we borrow that in the U.S. also? Wonderful. Ghana's the place to be, no doubt about it. I'm sure that a lot of people will be heading there very, very soon. Please.
Hi, Mr. President.
Yep.
Hello, Mr. President. I'm Caleb Solomon, and I'm in the engineering school, and I'm studying chemical engineering, and hopefully I'm looking forward to going back to Ghana and help with the, to solve some problems. So my question is, how do we grow and sustain our political or our democracy if our democracy is destroying our educational system? Because during my time in high school, I did 3 years, and some other people did 4 years. So can you touch a little bit on the 3 years and the 4 years? And how are the leaders really interested in, are the leaders really interested in our education, or they're just playing around with the education system? Just touch a little bit on that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Ghana's democracy is mature and will survive. It's faced various tests, over the last several decades, and it has endured. I mean, since 1992, we returned to democratic and constitutional rule, and since then we've held 6 elections, and this year, for the first time, we had an electoral dispute that went to court, and we had the Supreme Court of Ghana sitting for nearly 8 months adjudicating the issue, and all Ghanaians were, for the first time, stuck to their television sets because it was the first case that was being televised publicly, and Ghanaians followed it throughout. And eventually the Supreme Court gave a decision. I mean, there were doomsayers who said, it was going to result in chaos and violence, but Ghana just, rode the moment, and I believe that it shows that our institutions are getting strengthened and our democracy is secure. But I understand the issue you're talking about. It's about SHS and the 4-year and 3 years. Yeah. In the wisdom of a government, it thought that the 3 years was too short, and so it extended it to 4 years. There was a difference in opinion between two governments. The other government felt that, and I'll speak for my government, I can't speak for the 4 years, I can speak for the 3 years. The senior high school period in Ghana is the most expensive part of our educational system. And to extend it an additional year puts a very serious financial burden on the parent. What we felt was that rather than extend it, let's increase investment to ensure that children get a quality education within the 3 years to be able to make it into university. And so, yes, we differed from our colleagues. Our colleagues felt that it wasn't enough and that they should extend the time to give the children more time to be able to do it. But I believe that if the quality of the education is not good, especially in the rural areas, where a lot of teachers don't want to accept postings, they don't have laboratories and all that, if you even extended it for 7 years, that child is still going to go and fail. And so why extend it? The money you use to extend it, invest it in providing laboratories, in providing learning aids in the rural areas, in making it attractive for teachers to go in. And if you improve the quality, 3 years is sufficient for a child to be able to make it into university or into polytechnic, or if they're not able to make it, provide alternatives in technical and vocational education for them. And so that was our opinion, and I believe that that's the best system, and we're going to invest to improve education in Ghana.
Wonderful, thank you. And one thing I'd like to ask also of our students, and especially the Ghanaian students, one of the things we're really interested in exploring is how to use online education at all levels in new ways. And at the Earth Institute, we're putting a tremendous amount of effort right now into putting a lot of online free open access information and a lot of video conferencing with universities around the world, and we'd really love to partner with Ghanaian universities. And we're also trying to promote high schools to have contact internationally and develop international curricula. So students here that would be interested in working on that, please do get involved, because it's going to be a major activity for us. Please. No, sorry, we're alternating mics, and then you're next.
Yeah, hello. Welcome, Mr. President. I'm Umar Mohammed. I'm from Ghana, Tamale, Nyuhane.
Yay.
Mr. President, my question is two. The first one is...
That's GPS positioning.
My question is two. The first one is, what is the specific program your government has that would reduce corruption? Because we hear that every government says, I'm going to fight corruption. But what is the specific thing that your government would do to reduce corruption in Ghana? That's my number one question. And then the second question is, I follow Ghanaian news and have read recently about taxes. So my question is, what are the things that your government are putting in place to make sure that we don't increase tax, increase taxes that would harm the poor? Thank you.
Okay. I said GPS positioning because he mentioned that he comes from Nyoni, And I grew up in Gumbihini, and that's a neighborhood that adjoins Nyoini, so I know exactly where he's talking about. Yeah, but talking about the fight against corruption, it is a difficult fight, but it needs perseverance and determination to be able to root it out. And it doesn't take just the president, it takes everybody to be able to do it. What we need to do is to create an environment that makes it difficult for corruption to exist. You can pass the best laws, but laws don't implement themselves. They need people to make sure that those laws are implemented and corruption is reduced. Over the years in the previous administration, they passed very useful laws. They passed the Whistleblowers Bill, they passed the Financial Administration regulations, they passed the Internal Audit Agency Act, and several other anti-corruption legislation. We have come and continued that process. Currently, we're sending before Parliament a Public Officers Code of Conduct Bill to guide how public officers deal with issues of conflict of interest and receiving gifts and so on and so forth. We also are strengthening the existing anti-corruption agencies, that is the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. We're sending legislation to Parliament to amend the Constitution to allow the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to take up investigations into issues of corruption without first receiving a complaint. The Constitution says that they can only investigate an issue if they receive a complaint. And so they are stopped if they found an incident of corruption from investigating it unless a member of the public came and complained about that incident. And so we're going to review the Constitution to that effect. We have the Rights to Information Bill that has been pending before Parliament for a long time. We're going to pass that and allow people to exercise their right to information, to demand public information. We are amending the Public Procurement Bill to make it more effective and transparent in terms of public procurements. And there's a lot that is happening. I've asked the Attorney General to begin prosecution of people who are found culpable in the Auditor General's report. In the past, we received Auditor General's report that indict people, but no action has been taken against them. And so I've given the Auditor General the license to go ahead and begin to prosecute such people. We need to deter people from involving in corruption, and my government is determined to carry the fight against corruption to its ultimate end.
Please.
Greetings, Mr. President. My name is Angela Afa. First of all, Kwaba. I'm a doctoral student in the School of Social Work. I actually had a twofold question, but the lawyer beat me to one of them. So my question is based on health. And the WHO projected that by 2030, diseases like heart disease and diabetes and cancer, basically non-infectious diseases, will be taking over the continent of Africa. And so I wanted to know, what is your administration's plans to counter that, to plant the seed in a way so that Ghana would not be heavily impacted? Yeah, so that's my question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And I guess that's a very important question. We're seeing an increase in incidence of what we call lifestyle diseases as people's incomes improve, as people have a better quality of life. We're beginning to see a rise in diabetes, in renal diseases, in cardiac diseases, and so many of other side diseases that were not common in Africa previously. We have been concentrating on parasitical diseases like malaria and all of them, and I guess that too much attention has not yet been paid to these other diseases, but they are becoming rampant. It's mostly an urban phenomenon, but of course you can find some of that in the rural setting as people's incomes get better. And so I guess that we need to begin to focus on that too. We're doing that by creating specialized centers for cure. So in Kolebu, we set up the cardiothoracic unit, we set up the radiology unit, we set up the renal diseases unit, and so many of such units that deal with these lifestyle diseases. But I think that in the most part, prevention is better than cure. And so it's an issue that we'll take up to let people understand that your lifestyle can let you acquire a disease that you wouldn't have gotten normally.
You'll be happy to know, Mr. President, that when Ban Ki-moon asked me to help organize a global knowledge network on the post-2015 agenda, and we established a task force on health for all, which features heavily the non-communicable diseases. We have 3 co-chairs of that, a leader from India, a leader from China, and a leader from Ghana. Irene Agyopong, who is the Director of Health of the Greater Accra region. So Ghana is very well represented on this global commission, and it's focusing exactly on these questions about this transition of the disease burden, how to make sure that the diseases, the behavioral issues and the diseases, non-communicable diseases are well addressed. Please. I think we will have time for two more questions, I believe. I apologize to everybody, but we will invite the president back tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. But please, let's continue.
I'm the lucky one. Thank you, Professor Sachs. Thank you, President Mahama, for taking time in your busy schedule to attend the World Leaders Forum here at Columbia. My name is Cosmas Sivinda, and I'm from Zimbabwe. My question is on regional matters and their bearing on your locality and on Ghana as well. There is the relic of like the Islamic Christian interaction throughout Africa, like this band which stretches from Sudan through Central Africa, all through Mali, Nigeria, and Ghana, which is represented by the northern parts of the country being predominantly Muslim and the southern parts being predominantly Christian. We've seen this playing out in the secession of South Sudan from Sudan, and we've seen it again in play in the whole concept of Tuareg rebels and the Malian crisis last year. We're seeing it in play in Nigeria in the form of Boko Haram, the terrorist organization. Right now they have the state of emergency in their northern provinces. I would like to know what your government is doing to counteract this imminent threat and how you are addressing the imperative like disparities between the prosperity of the South and the relative poverty of the North.
Yeah, in the last part of the question, you hit the nail on the head. You talked about prosperity in the South and poverty in the North. It is that imbalance that is the trigger for tensions, not that not the fact that people are of different religions. I mean, history has made Ghana a multicultural melting pot of different people, of different religions, of different ethnicity, living together in peace and harmony. It is how you include all your people to have a stake in the state and in the survival of the state. That makes the difference. If you exclude anybody and you carry out a politics of exclusion, then you're going to have the kind of reversal that you've seen in some areas. Where you have extreme poverty, you must reach out with social intervention programs. You must decentralize governance so that everybody has a stake. In Ghana, we have what we call the District Assembly's Common Fund. That seeds 8% of revenue, gross revenue, not net revenue, gross revenue to 230 districts across the country. And so each district receives its share of the 8% of government revenue, and they can use it the way it pleases. They have an assembly. They can decide they want to build schools. They can decide they want to build boreholes. They can decide they want to build mosques or cinema theaters or whatever they feel they want to build with it. It is their prerogative. Africa must learn to integrate and include its multicultural, nationalities. And probably if they say Ghana is a model of peace and democracy, it is because we have been better able to, include all our people. I come from the North, which is the poorer part of the country, but I see the social programs going on in the North. Professor Jeffrey Sachs talked about SADA. SADA means Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, and money is ceded to SADA to implement programs that would bridge the disparity between the North and South of our country. And I believe that if we're able to do that successfully, it doesn't matter that people are Muslim, or it doesn't matter that people are Buddhist or Hindu or Christians or they are Ashanti, or they are Fanti, or they are Dagombo, or whatever. They all belong to one nation.
Please.
Mr. President, John Cote, I'm a second-year electrical engineering student in the undergraduate school, and also the political chair of the African Students Association. During the run-up to the 2012 elections, there was a lot of inflamed ethnic and religious violence. Most people blamed it on the overzealousness of politicians, basically the lack of oversight or monitoring. But then just before the elections and between December and July, when the court decided that you should win, and congrats, by the way, we saw the work that the National Peace Council did. And the National Peace Council is composed of, we know, chiefs, kings, religious leaders. What do you think is the role? How can we incorporate? We saw the work that they did. We saw the kind of oversight and checking that they had on our politicians. How can we give the chiefs, the kings, the religious leaders a more formal place in our democracy? And extending it, we are trying to grow indigenous and sustainable democracies on the continent. It looks like the typically Western style is not working in all African countries. How should we, or what sort of groundwork should we be doing in actually seeing how to integrate social, economic, and ethnic stratification, making it come together as a whole to ensure peace and sustainable democracies on the continent?
Okay. Thank you. That's quite, it'll take a lecture a whole day to answer that question. But I am a believer in the fact that democracy is not a one-size-fits-all. I mean, there are different democracies. We have the Westminster, which is a British style. We have the American executive presidency. We have different kinds of democracies. And as democracy spreads around the world, the concept is the same, but in implementation, it must take recognition of the cultural peculiarities of everybody. And so we believe that our current democracy takes recognition of the peculiarities of Ghana. And that's why we have a Council of State. The Council of State is made of eminent citizens, mostly chiefs, religious leaders, people who have, garnered a lot of experience in governance and statesmanship and all that. And they are an advisory body to the president. And so twice a year, I meet with the Council of State, and they pick things, that are happening on the ground that probably I otherwise wouldn't hear. And I have a session with them, and they present a report every year to the president about what their recommendations are. And so that for us is an adaptation. We have a single chamber parliament, and we have an executive presidency. But our laws are British. We use English common law. And so I think that every country blends democracy to suit, its peculiar circumstances. But let me say that in the 2012 election, it was one of the most peaceful. There was hardly any violence. If I remember, there was just one recorded incident of violence in Kumasi. The National Peace Council has traditionally played its role, and I believe that that is part of the absorber system, the shock absorber system that Ghana has, the role that our chiefs and religious leaders and civil society organizations play when they see there's a threat of peace. I mean, they just kick in automatically. There's a threat to peace, sorry. They just kick in automatically. And that's what happened in advance of the 2012 election. They, mobilized and went on, an advocacy for peaceful elections, and they do that anytime there are issues that could create social tensions in the country. And in advance of the Supreme Court verdict, they did the same thing. And so what we've done is to institutionalize the National Peace Council. It is now backed by law. And so it is a statutory organization that is responsible for early warning systems to see where there are areas of social or political tension. and to begin the advocacy, draw government's attention to it, and begin advocacy to ensure that peace prevails. And so I believe that it's all those systems at work together with Ghanaians' natural, phobia for bloodshed. We can't sustain bloodshed. I mean, Ghanaians, I've been in different countries, and I'll not name those countries, where, somebody is killed or something by the roadside, and people just walk past and don't even think that there's anything happening. In Ghana, if there's a dead body, people are going to surround it and conjecture what happened, what killed him, or maybe a car knocked him. And they're going to stand there until the police come and evacuate the body. And so Ghanaians have a certain sensitivity, for human life. And I think that natural, sensitivity guarantees that we don't descend into some of the violence that we see in other places. But I wouldn't say that's the only reason. We've put in mechanisms and systems in place that ensure that where there is going to be some social or political tension, the right mechanisms kick in to prevent it from happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, sad to say we've come to the end of an extraordinary hour with the President. First, I want to first thank our wonderful students for all the energy and insight you bring. We have many projects around Africa at the Earth Institute. I hope people will get involved. The doors are wide open. Mr. President, you've really inspired us and given us many extremely thoughtful and powerful ideas. We are absolutely grateful for that. We count on you coming back soon. Anytime you're in the neighborhood, we're going to, and that means coming for the UN or other events. The door is always open here. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please join me in thanking President Mahama.
Thank you.